this is Nabraj and my friend Ramna. Today we are going to walk you through our idea Iot.Chained using the blockchain technology as part of Nokia's Hack the Block initiative. So today we're going to quickly walk you through the introduction, our use case, followed by demo and architecture, and any Q&A. As part of the introduction, let's ask ourselves what is blockchain, right? The blockchain is a database and blockchain is a network. The database because it has the transaction in form of blocks that it stores. That's why it's database, and it's network because everything is on a network. It could have its own private network. It could have its public network, and all the nodes, all the servers are really decentralized. So basically it's combinations of database and network, and it really depends on what use case you are running and what use case that you are basically looking to leverage most out of this database or network or the hybrid solution, right? The use case today that we're going to walk you through is really the IoT. We're going to use the IoT device in the blockchain the framework. So our use case is very interesting. So the owner has his IoT device that he wants to basically sell, and the buyer wants to basically buy this device or this object, this IoT device from the owner. And when that happens, when the owner sells it and buyer buys it, the ownership really has to transfer from owner to the buyer, right? At the same time, the access and the ownership should be granted back to the buyer. Now, this is a typical use case of the access control. But then think of this use case as a very typical scenario at your home, in terms of privacy, where you might have access to, you as the owner might have access to your camera at home, and you want to transfer that the access. You want to basically not to just transfer, you want to give that access to your family members or your guest, right? And in that case, you basically pass that the blockchain, the transaction ID of the blockchain, the secure blockchain, and towards the to the new user. In this use case, we call buyer, right? But in terms of in terms of this use case, we are basically saying this owner and buyer and IoT device, but it could be anything else where we are basically accessing the new user and accessing the new IoT device, which is given the grant by the owner. That's the whole idea here, and this everything happens through the blockchain and transaction ID. Okay, our next topic is demo. So let me quickly go over the demo now. So before we start demo, I need to start some server. The first one is our actual web app running on 4200 port. The second is the blockchain explorer, where you would be seeing all the blocks created, transaction ID created, and the owners. And the third terminal is really gonna open the blockchain network itself. So as you see, when we started the blockchain, it has created some keys and a few test accounts for our testing. Let me go through the portal now. Right, so now think about this as a web portal, or portal where the buyer or seller logs into their own account, right? And think about this portal as I was saying, in terms of the household use case. You can just transfer the grant from one user to another user. So I'm gonna select. Okay, before I go to the actual selling and buy, let me open the blockchain explorer, where you see 0 blocks, Genesis block here, right? It has 0 miner, no owner right now, and let's say the first user as a seller wants to sell something, wants to sell IoT device, and that particular device, that particular transaction ID, this particular transaction ID is some attribute. So let's say name as my home camera home, right? Location Austin, pin ether. And again, these are just the attributes. These are the attributes to create a contract. It could be anything. It could be customized to, let's say, just the PIN number or serial number, whatever. I'm just giving for the example right now. I'm providing more details. So when you create a transaction, the new transaction would have been created here, the blockchain, right? And that's the contract that we created, as part of this, the attribute from this seller, which is here. Now if I go to the block explorer, you will see the first block is created, right? That's the block that I'm talking about here, 0.69 transaction, right? Now if I basically if the buyer wants to sell it back to if the seller wants to sell it back to buyer, then the reference point for this particular transaction is this contract. So the buyer, let's say the bottom one, would search through that contract. Yes, and came at home. Austin B basically got that contract back here. Okay, and on sell, it says okay, we are on sell, and buy. And again, this is just the buyer and seller portal, so you would have it has all the buyer and seller concept. But again, as I was keep saying, this doesn't have to be buyer or seller. This could be literally the owner at home wants to just give the access to the other user or other device, or something like that. Let's say when I buy this particular contract or the IoT device, the purchase is complete. Now if I go back to the blockchain explorer, you will see second block is created, right? Now it says from the buyer to the new owner created, right? Now our third step in this whole demo is really the actual IoT device. Now till now we are saying whole use case about the IoT. Now what exactly in this whole demo is IoT? The buyer is selling is a portal, and the seller is basically selling is a portal, but the actual the IoT device, we wanted to try that on the Raspberry Pi, but somehow our the Web3 the camera module is not working. So that's why we're just trying to mimicking it. So the acknowledgement of assets. So this button, what this button would do is the buyer who bought this the IoT device now wants to access, right? To access that particular IoT device. So in this particular acknowledgement asset, we are just trying to put this transaction validation. So if I go here and let's say acknowledgement that asset, as part of this acknowledgement process, what we are saying is the new buyer wants to now access this IoT device, and that's where we are saying anytime we want to basically have the IoT device access, you need to have the blockchain, this transaction ID, and a contract, and those are the two parameters that we're gonna send it to the IoT device. An IoT device which is on the blockchain network itself, we're gonna accept the transaction ID and the contract, and based on those the values and validity, IoT device would let the new owner, in this case the buyer, allow the access, allow the buyer to access the IoT device. That's the whole paradigm that we're trying to set here, that is accessing the new buyer, right? Ethernet, right? So Ethernet call, the Ethereum call is done here, and we confirm that is actually, the IoT device accepted the transaction from the new buyer. Well, so that's all from the demo perspective. If I quickly walk you through the architecture, so we said, okay, there's a user, buyer, or seller. We have a smart contract, and then we have the IoT device, right? And both user use the portal, and we have the we use the Web3 JS framework, library framework, and get to access the blockchain. Yeah, that's all from the demo perspective and presentation perspective. If you have any questions for myself for this from this particular demonstration, then please reach out to myself and Branch or the Ramna for more details, and we are happy to walk you through the code level or more deeper dive into the use cases, brainstorm any new ideas. Right. Thank you so much.